Yo, welcome back to the house where we talk news, celebrities, and hot topics. Y'all, I'm excited because I want to go ahead and talk Real Housewives of Atlanta season Sweet 16. Quiet as it's kept, I did not watch the episode, okay, but I do have it on DVR and Peacock. However, I did see that 6-minute scene with Shamea Morton and Porsha Williams when they were talking about the breakdown of their best friendship. And, Shamea was calling out Porsha for being dismissive and not really hearing out her concerns as far as the friendship is concerned. Porsha did not want their friendship to, play out like this on a television because she doesn't get paid enough for it. But one thing that stuck out with me from that conversation, besides the food, okay, there was at a restaurant called Rock South, and it looked like Porsha had like this hot honey glazed whole chicken wing with mac and cheese that was so cheesy and beautiful, and these collard greens that look so good. I was like, wow, I gotta go there. I gotta go there. Okay, we gotta make our way to the Rock South. But besides the food, what stuck with me in that conversation was the fact that Shamea said that Porsha told her that Porsha's mom, Mama Diane, said to Porsha to watch out for Shamea, and that the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. And then soon after that, Shamea claims that Porsha got real distant, which Porsha denies. And so it's pretty clear to me that Mama Diane has been trying to warn Porsha about Shamea for a while now. Mama Diane has been very weary about her daughter being so chummy with Shamea for a while now, right? Coupled with the fact that all of those episodes ago, back in episode 1, Shamea and Porsha went to the strip club. And remember, Shamea carried that bone to Porsha, talking about how Kelly said that Porsha should have never messed with Fallon's husband, Simon Guobadia. Then Porsha took that conversation to her mother, Mama Diane. And then Mama Diane said, well, sis, watch the dog that brings you the bone. So watch the dog that brings you the bone, and the apple don't fall too far from the tree. Mama Diane is warning her daughter Porsha about Shamea because Mama Diane is still hurt and triggered about what had happened all them years ago. Or maybe she's not hurt and triggered. Maybe she just don't forget. 2 weeks after that aired, y'all, after the dog that, watch the dog that brings you the bone comment, Shamea's mom went onto YouTube and said, well, I used to be friends with Mama Diane, but I'm just so disappointed that she would go on national television and call my daughter a dirty dog. Well, y'all, last Saturday, remember we talked about this 2 days ago. Last Saturday, I was in Walmart 7:30 in the morning because I wanted some pillows. I wanted some new pillows for my bed. And I was in the pillow aisle, boogers still in my eye, comparing pillows. And all of a sudden, I hear my phone go bzzz. And it's Kiki the Cupcake Girl. And I go, what's up, sis? She goes, girl, did you see what Porsha posted? And I go, no, send it to me. I'm never too tired for tea. It's never too early for tea. I'm in the pillow aisle, y'all. And I'm reading this. And it goes, this is what Porsha said. I'ma just say this. I'm watching the new episode at Shamea Morton. Don't take it there. Don't imply shit about Mama Diane Williams. I've been keeping it cute and quiet, and you can do and say whatever you want regarding me, but hear me out when I say wrong road, sis. Talking about, well, your mom thought my mom was a friend, knowing good goddamn well what she did to my mom was highly egregious. What she did to my mom was highly egregious. Don't do it. Keep playing victim. Don't keep playing victim. Miss me with that bullshit. Stop fucking with my mama, because that's my mama. She said you said it on TV, and now I'm going to say it on Instagram. Fair warning, Shamea. Wrong road. So, of course, I had to add some sauce. But I was like, ooh. Knowing good and goddamn well what your mom did to my mom was egregious. Well, what did she do? Well, let's talk about it. Allegedly, okay, this is all allegedly, okay, from a source, from the streets, Mama Joyce and her streets. Back in 2001, Mama Diane owned 2 or 3 daycare centers, right? Mama Morton also owned a few daycare centers. Ironically enough, around that same time, my mom owned a daycare center. Well, they was cool. They were both business women. Okay, multiple businesses, Tokyo Tony Trucking. They sponsored children in Uganda. But no, what happened in 2001? Okay, what was the biggest news story? 9/11, right? So what I done heard is that after 9/11, I guess the economy was out of whack. Parents didn't want to send their snot-nosed children to, be taken care of by strangers. And so, they said that the daycare business took a nosedive. I have not researched how the daycare business was affected by 9/11. However, what we do know is that Diane's business was affected shortly after 9/11. And one of her daycare centers, and I asked, did she own this particular daycare center or was she leasing the building out to run the daycare center? And they told me she owned it. Well, one particular center of hers was in this building and she was having issues with the business and financial struggles and stuff like that. And she was just going to let the property go into foreclosure. At the time, she was confiding and venting to Sarah, Mama Morton, Shamea's mom. And she was telling Mama Morton about her issues and her struggles and how, the economy and, business is down and enrollment is down and revenue is down. Therefore, profit is down. Therefore, my money is looking funny. I'm going to let this shit go into foreclosure. Okay. I don't really care. She tells Mama Sarah, I don't really care what happens to the property as long as somebody don't buy the property and then open up a daycare center and compete with my other daycare centers that I have left. Well, the property gets foreclosed on, and I guess it goes to a sheriff's sale, an auction. Apparently, allegedly, someone bought the property. And that someone was Mama Sarah Morton. And y'all, what did Mama Sarah Morton do with the property? She took Mama Diane's sign off the side of that building and put Mama Morton's, and it became one of her franchises, one of her daycare centers. Y'all, when Mama Diane found out that it was Sarah who bought up the building and started operating her business, her daycare out of it, she was livid. She was livid, okay? She immediately cut Sarah off. Diane immediately cut Mama Morton off, right? My first question when I heard this was, well, why didn't Mama Morton buy Mama Diane's business or property from her directly instead of letting Diane go into foreclosure and then buying it at the auction? We don't know. Questions that need answers. Again, this is all alleged. But listen, so that's when Diane cut Mama Morton off. On top of that, apparently there had always been some sort of like secret animosity and some secret jealousy and some secret competition. Mama Diane would do this and Mama Morton would do that. And Mama Morton would do that and Mama Diane would do this. Now, the way I heard it, it was kind of like one-sided, as if Mama Morton was biting off of everything Diane was doing. But for dramatic effect, let's just say they were biting off each other, okay? But apparently, allegedly, Diane had bought her a house and was flexing on her haters. And all of a sudden, Mama Morton was doing the same thing. Bought a house a week later and said, oh, I can do that too. Ooh. Child. And then the streets told me some other things about some credit card fraud and stuff like that. But listen, that's none of my business, okay? We already have enough scamming going on in Atlanta. I don't need to expose no more. Okay, I'm going to leave that alone. Y'all done called Brittany Edie an insurance fraud hoe. Y'all said that Angela Oakley was taking out loans at the Wachovia Bank, defaulting, paying her mortgage off, and then spinning it up and, had it out in her great grandmother's name and all of this other stuff, allegedly. And then somebody told me about Mama Morton credit card fraud, and that's none of my business. Okay, it's none of my business. But y'all, that whole situation kind of reminds me of what Angela said. And I'm really not taking a side either way. I'm not taking a side, and I'm trying not to really give an opinion. However, I'm just connecting dots. And that story about the daycare centers kind of reminds me of what Angela was saying about how she feels as though Shamea is very calculated. Because that's a very calculated thing to do, to sit back and watch your friend's business go into foreclosure, and then you kind of swoop in and buy the property at the auction and then open up the daycare center in the same building that your friend just had her daycare. It's like that's very calculating, right? If that's true, allegedly, right? We don't know. Um, and that situation also reminds me of a story that Nene told years ago about Lisa Vanderpump. Now, I don't really remember exactly what the time period was, but I'm going to go ahead and assume it was around the time where Nene was at the peak of her career, right? And she was on The New Normal, and she was on Glee, and she was best friends with Ryan Murphy, and she was on Top of the World, and she was NBC Universal's darling, and she was best friends with Andy Cohen. Before Andy Cohen was a cokehead and racist, of course. Okay. And remember that season where they visited Nene in Los Angeles and went up that hill, okay? The Hollywood Hills that Nene was staying at because she was having like a kickback, a party, and she sent them back down that hill talking about, y'all, it's too late. No more hors d'oeuvres, no more cheese plates, no more wine, and sent them back down that hill. She said, I may live in the Hollywood Hills, but I still know how to get hood. Well, I'm assuming around that time, right? She was cruising around LA and she thought she was going to be good Judy's with Lisa Vanderpump. She done left her black girlfriends in Atlanta and thought she was going to be real good Judy's with the wealthy women of Beverly Hills. So she calls Lisa Vanderpump and goes, hey, Lisa, I see a property on 123 Sunset Boulevard. Should I lease it out? What do you think of this neighborhood? Should I open up a lounge? Now, why is she asking Lisa Vanderpump? Because that's Lisa's area of expertise. Everybody knows that she has the restaurants and the bars and the lounges in Hollywood and in Vegas, right? Well, child, Lisa Vanderpump was on the phone and she told Nene, absolutely not, darling. Absolutely not. That's the ghetto. You'll never see a soul. You'll never get a customer on that corner. Goodbye, Cal. Click. And Nene goes, okay, well, she's the expert. I'm going to listen to her, and passed it up. A week later, Nene's riding around that same neighborhood and she sees sold, or leased, whatever. Y'all, guess who leased the property and is now opening up a lounge in that place? Lisa Vanderpump. People will really sit back and listen to all of your ideas and vent about your struggles and your ideas and what have you, and then strike when the iron is hot. Not the same situation, not as deep as the daycare center situation, but it kind of reminded me of that. Anyways, y'all let me know how y'all feel about everything in the comments down below. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to create a great day. Bye. Love you.